Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning. This is Denise Griffitts, and my guest today on Your Partner in Success Radio is Ying Chen, and her story reads like a symphony of courage, resilience, and unshakable faith. In 2006, she stood at the conductor's podium as Shen Yun Performing Arts was born. Shen Yun Performing Arts was born, not in the glitter of Broadway or the security of an established institution, but as an all-volunteer effort by first-generation immigrants who were determined to bring back 5,000 years of Chinese civilization that was nearly erased by communist rule. And against impossible odds, they transformed that vision into what is now the fastest-growing performance arts company in American history. And today we are sponsored by the Blaine Group. And a special thank you to my friend and powerhouse publicist, Devin Blaine, for introducing me to Ying and making this conversation possible. Devin and her team specialize in media relations, crisis management, and high-impact publicity that delivers results. And you can learn more about her at theblaingroupinc.com. And now it's my honor to welcome Ying Chen to Your Partner in Success Radio. And her journey goes far beyond the music. Her family in China endured detention and torture for holding to their beliefs, and instead of silencing her, those experiences gave her voice even more power. And today, through Shen Yun, their orchestra, she leads a sound that does more than entertain. It awakens memory, revives culture, and delivers a message of hope to audiences worldwide. I can't talk today. Bear with me. Ying, your story is extraordinary, but before we explore it, I would love to know, what do you hold most important in your life? And how does that shape the world, how you move through the world?
I think I'm very fortunate to be part of this journey with Shen Yun, in which I really have grown myself tremendously through storms and a lot of challenges, but we've overcome. We still have to continue this fight in many regards, but I think in this journey that I would love to share with you that it really shows that this amazing country can give anybody with hard work, dedication, and a heart to do good a great opportunity to thrive and achieve their dreams.
And I love that you love America. I love America. I don't understand people who live here and don't love it, but that's a whole nother topic.
But as a first-generation immigrant, I really appreciate a lot of things that I think people here may take for granted. But coming from other countries and other cultures, and there's so much that we should be very, very proud of and should never lose.
I agree with you. Before we talk about Shen Yun itself, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell us your story? And you shared quite a bit with me in the pre-interview, and I remember weeping a little bit when you were telling some of your story. I couldn't help myself. I caught myself going, I think my eyes are leaking. What was life like for you and your family in China, and what led you to the conductor's podium here in America?
Sure. I was born in Beijing, China, into a family of musicians, and very proud of my parents. They were both members of the Central Philharmonic Orchestra of China. At that time, it was the best orchestra in China, and my mother was recognized as one of the very best flutists, and my father was manager of that orchestra for about 8 years. So I grew in a music family, started to learn piano when I was 4, and then flute, I think was 11. 11 years old, I started to study flute. And then I went to the middle school of the Shanghai Conservatory of Music to study flute there. So after I graduated, or when I was about to graduate, though, my mother told me that she was really impressed with the principal flute of Philadelphia Orchestra, Mr. Murray Panitz, who was visiting Beijing with Philadelphia Orchestra. The Philadelphia Orchestra, I think, was the first Western orchestra that visited China after it started to open up to the outside world in the 1970s. And my mother just had was really impressed by his level of playing and artistry. So she encouraged me to go study with him in Philadelphia. So I was very fortunate that my application was approved, and I was able to come here to study the flute with him. It was really a dream come true for both me and my mom, because he was one of the most renowned flutists in the world. So that's how I came to the U.S. But I have to say that when I was growing up in China, we have really lost touch with our traditional culture and values. You may or may not know that in China, Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, they have been considered the pillar of Chinese civilization for thousands of years. They're really weaved into people's way of thinking, the arts and the culture, their daily life, and they have always been an integral part of the Chinese culture. However, when the communist regime took power in 1949, in order to instill Marxism, something that was very foreign to China, but they brought in Marxism, and in order to establish that, they systematically, over the last several decades, three-quarter century now by now, systematically root out and erase the spiritual culture from China. And they've done that through one political campaign after another. To the point that when I was growing up in China, I really had no idea what my traditional culture and beliefs were. They were all considered to be superstitious and outdated and just not really respected. And then I came to the U.S. and I really loved the culture here, and I really wanted to be westernized, and because I love how generous people are in this country and how kind-hearted they are, how they care for each other, and I think a lot of that actually is because of the traditional values that this country in the U.S. has gotten to preserve compared to China. So anyway, I was fascinated by the Western culture, but then through this spiritual practice, which I will get into later, I started to then appreciate, oh, wait, the Chinese, there's so much wisdom in the Chinese culture that I can draw from. And it resonates with me. It runs in my blood, and it makes me a very proud American. Actually, I've been a naturalized citizen, American citizen for decades now. But I'm just really proud of America, where it incorporates all these cultures, and we can be proud of our heritage and thrive in this country, and also share it with people in the world. So all of that is just really exhilarating to me, and I'm mentioning this because it has to do with Shen Yun that we'll be talking about later on. So it's just part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So basically, I came to the United States to study music with Mr. Panitz. Meanwhile, my parents and my brother, they were still in China. In the 1990s, my brother started to he encountered Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa. This is a Buddhist-based spiritual practice, and that also comes with gentle exercises. There are 4 standing exercises and 1 meditation. So when my brother tried it, he immediately felt energy flow in his body, like really strong. And he was like, whoa, this is so amazing. And so he introduced it to my parents, who were who also started to learn. And what was really miraculous, we actually have experienced a lot of amazing things, but one of the most outstanding things, I would say, was my father had been smoking for 30 some years. And my mother tried to get him to quit no matter what. And it just failed no matter what. And he did want to stop smoking, but he just couldn't. And smoking was at least quite popular in China in those days. But after he watched a lecture through TV, a session by our teacher of our to practice Falun Dafa. In that lecture, he talked about, if you want to quit smoking, you can, and it will be easy for you because it's in line with our spiritual belief and practice, and it's not good for you. And it's an addiction, and you want to, if you want to purify your body and mind, this is something that you may want to do. So after watching that video, my father didn't think too much about it, but when he never thought about smoking anymore after that. Sure. But in China, there was this custom that his students or other colleagues would offer cigarettes to him, would say, oh, Mr. Chen, would you like to share a cigarette? Have a cigarette with me? And he would take it, and then he smoked it, but it tasted funny to him. So, wait, this doesn't taste right. So he tried a different brand. Wait, that doesn't taste right either. He tried several brands, and this happened for the next several days after he watched that video. Then he realized, whoa, this is a sign for me to quit smoking. And he quit smoking just like that. He never had any urge or crave for it since then. So when my parents told me about this, I just couldn't really believe it, and I thought it was too good to be true, right? So they sent me the books and the of the Falun Dafa teachings and exercise videotapes for me to learn. So I learned it I was already in the U.S., so I learned it, and at the beginning I just thought, wow, all these principles sounds really good, and I do resonate with them because of my cultural heritage, right? But what really impressed me was when I saw how the real changes in people who practice it. I mean, just everybody that I've known who started to practice Falun Gong, I can see how they've changed, truly changed. And for example, for my parents, they used to quarrel a lot. But after they practiced, they all, our family became more harmonious. And because the tenets, the core principles of Falun Gong there are 3 Chinese characters, Zhen, Shan, Ren, and they translate as being true, being genuine. Shan is kind and having compassion and be good. And Ren is actually a lot of meaning packed in it. Sometimes it's translated as forbearance, tolerance, but it's also about endurance, resilience, patience, self-discipline, all that good stuff, right? So we believe that if we cultivate these virtues in ourselves, in our daily life, and get rid of our bad thoughts or unhealthy thoughts or habits, we would be more in line with these principles, and as a result, elevate ourselves spiritually as well. So these are the things that we try to do. So obviously, you don't want to lose your temper, and that's why my family relations are getting better. And we also self-reflect a lot on a daily basis. What could I have done better? Oh, that person was mad at me. Maybe even though on the surface I didn't think I did anything wrong, but I could still look inside more to see, oh, maybe it was my attitude, maybe it was something else that I did before or whatever it be that caused it. So it's always about how to improve, center on improving ourselves individually. So this has done wonders to us. And my parents' health also got better. They didn't have any major ailments, but even minor things gone away. They're, like arthritis, and my father was really, really skinny, and he started to gain some weight and look more healthy. And just everything. And they feel the energy inside, and they love the meditation that helps energize them and get them more focused. And my mother was really drawn to, these the 真善人, the truthfulness, compassion, resilience, these qualities. And so they introduced it to me, and we were all just really felt like that's the best thing ever happened in our life. And for me, I think it also helped relieve stress a lot, because I was here in this country alone, and we didn't have any foundation in this country, but I was trying to go through college, and then I had some college debt. So I was trying to get myself established, I guess, here. But I think this faith has given me a lot of strength, and not just physically energized me, but also has given me a lot of strength to face any challenges that come my way. But when everything was going so well, and meanwhile Falun Gong or Falun Dafa became the fastest growing spiritual practice of Qigong in China in the 1990s because of its
How did that happen? Because communism and Marxism, those words scare me to death. But didn't they have a pretty hard thumb on you guys? Were you allowed to?
Yeah. So Falun Gong, okay. So Falun Gong was first introduced as Qigong, which is like energy exercises. And before Falun Gong became so popular, there were other Qigong practices, energy practices that were popular. But when Falun Gong was introduced to the public in 1992, it was spread really just by word of mouth. There wasn't any advertising, but people, after, just like my family, right? You like it, but you spread it to your friends. So it grew very quickly. But in the beginning, it was more of the health benefits that was very, very immediately felt by people. And you go to parks in China in those days, every morning you go to any park in China, you'll see people practicing Falun Gong. In the park that is near my parents' home in Beijing, there was initially just one group, then it got to 2 groups, 3, 5, 6. So many that the park didn't even have more space, and they had to expand outside of the park to other places nearby. But so all this time, it was under the watch by the communist regime, of course. And in fact, it was receiving awards and praises in the media about, oh, this is so good, it's good for our country, help reduce health costs, medical costs. So it was under the watch, and everything, and literally people who were practicing this are from all walks of life, including government officials, people in the military, university, but also, people, farmers and teachers, people from all walks of life. So the government was watching it, but they didn't find anything really wrong. However, toward the end of the 1990s, the government, according to the government, they were estimating about 70 to 100 million people practicing Falun Gong. that far exceeded the Communist Party membership, which at the time was 55 million. So this became alarming to the government because
I can imagine. They're losing
they felt
control
threatened.
of you. Okay, keep going.
Yes. So they felt threatened. What if these people, have some political agenda to overthrow the government, even though we really, Falun Gong really doesn't. It's very benign. It's really just about health, improving our health and improving self-improvement in terms of our character. And also we seek to elevate ourselves spiritually. But in China, honestly, you cannot talk about spirituality too much. You have to really be careful what you talk about. And you also cannot call yourself a religion because in China, the only religion that are recognized have to be recognized and co-opted by the government. Otherwise, you are branded a cult, and you have to be underground church, and they would do whatever it takes to crush you. And actually, we learned later on that the Uyghurs and many Christian groups have been targeted and persecuted for decades. But we didn't know that when we were in China because all the media was controlled by the government. But anyway, in the 1990s, toward the late 1990s, the government started to become nervous about Falun Gong. So in July of 1999, the government decided to ban Falun Gong nationwide. And when that happened, they basically on July 20th, that exact day, suddenly they started to arrest people who practice Falun Gong across the country. And when I learned that news online, I called my mother immediately, and she said, "Oh, that must be why your brother's not home yet."
Oh,
so it
no.
turned out, So my brother that morning went out to the park to do the exercises again, but on his way home, he was stopped by the local police and taken into the police station. Didn't even allow him to call his family or workplace to tell them what's going on. They released him very late that evening. However, after that, every now and then, they will just take him into the police station for questioning again, basically to pressure him to stop practicing. But this is something that, this practice has brought so much to us, and we know what it is, and we know we don't have any ulterior motive. So we just want to cherish it and continue to practice it. But for doing that, for anybody who refused to stop practicing, they would arrest and torture you. And that happened to my family members. So I think it was November 1999, my brother decided to go to the appeal. There in Beijing, there's this appeals bureau, which is supposed to be the only place where citizens can go to file a complaint or to share with the government about their thoughts. They have no other avenue. That's the reason why many practitioners of Falun Gong wanted to go there and voice their concerns. So my brother went, and just for going there before he even reached the building, a couple blocks away, he was already stopped and taken into a minivan and then sent straight to a detention center, Chaoyang Detention Center near our home in Beijing. And he was detained there for 30 days under harsh conditions, just for trying to go to the appeals bureau. After he was released, a few months later, suddenly one night, their home in Beijing was stormed. Some policemen came in and stormed the apartment and searched for all Falun Gong material, ransacked their home, and took my brother and my mother away because they heard that they were still practicing. So my mother was sent to a labor camp for 30 days. My brother was first in a labor camp. My mother was sent to a detention center, not labor camp. My brother was sent to a labor camp for 18 months, where he was enduring excruciating torture every single day. And it's a fragile miracle that he survived. Basically, as soon as he got there, they would use electric batons to make everyone drop your head. You're not even supposed to walk with your head lift up. You have to knock down your head the whole time, and to show, your submission. And my brother was very frequently not allowed to sleep. And in one occasion, for 15 straight days, he was not allowed to sleep. And if he
That will
just
kill you. You can die.
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah. And every time he tried to close his eyes a little bit, somebody would beat him or use electric baton to hit him. And your body basically stopped functioning after just several days. So it was so bad that in the beginning, they still allowed some monthly visitation rights where my parents and my brother's wife would be able to see him briefly once a month. And they saw that his hair turned gray. He was only 29 years old. His hair turned gray, and he was so skinny that it was just basic. It's left with just skins and bone. And he looked like an old man. And we were all terribly worried about him, but there was really not that much we could do. And on one occasion, on several occasions, he nearly lost his life. But in one case, the guards, the prison guards, ordered several inmates to assault my brother. They were beating him and kicking him and pushing him to the floor, and then stepped on his face and continued to kick him. His face was left disfigured. And then they tied up his legs, and then tied up his arms behind his back, and then put a tape over his mouth so that he couldn't shout out. And in fact, he could not even breathe. And then they tied his neck to his legs, so basically folding him up. He was mustering the very little remaining ounce of his strength just to take in a little breath of air in order to survive. And in that condition, they then shipped him under a very low bed. It's very low so that his back was up against it. And then they had somebody stand on the bed to press it down even further on him. And at the time, he felt like his back was broken. For the next 2 weeks, he wasn't able to even stand up, and he couldn't use any strength in his back. But fortunately, his back was not broken. However, another practitioner, his name was Lu Changjun, who underwent the same torture, became permanently paralyzed. And these kind of stories happen in the labor camp every single day. And in fact, it's still happening in China. My brother said one time a friend of his was stripped naked, and then the guards poured cold water on him all over his body, and then they used 13 electric batons simultaneously on him to torture him. I mean, how inhumane can they be?
These people are not human. They're not human. I don't know what
They're
they
not.
are, but it's not just inhumane. That's evil.
But, it's built into the system, though, to encourage them to do that, because if they successfully convert somebody or transform somebody in their language, they get 1,500 Chinese yuan, which is, I don't know, maybe less than $200 as a reward. But if they fail to convert somebody, they get penalized for 1,000 Chinese yuan. So it's built into the system for these people to do evil. And even if some of them don't want to do it, they're almost forced to do it. And for them to be successful in their quote unquote career, this is the path. So it's the regime, that is the root of the problem. There are other policemen in the police station local police station who are sympathetic to my parents and my brother, because they knew them, but they were in the in the local community, they knew my parents, and they didn't want to do what they were doing to them, but they had no choice. So my brother is just one of the tens of millions of Falun Gong practitioners in China who were undergoing this kind of pressure and torture and killings. But you don't hear this in the media, right? In the early I think it was maybe 2000, sorry, I don't remember the date, but Ian Johnson of Wall Street Journal, he did win a Pulitzer Prize for a series of reporting of what the Falun Gong practitioners were undergoing in China during that time. So there were some coverage, but at the time, also the Western media had no idea what Falun Gong Falun Dafa is, right? But because even though we're based in Buddhist, traditions, they just never heard of it. So in the beginning, the Western media was just echoing what the Chinese propaganda, the communist regime's propaganda about us. Of course, in order to justify what they were doing, they called us all kinds of terrible things. For years, even today, they're calling us a cult, and they are. I'm sorry, and they're called they call us all these names, and they make up all these lies saying that the practitioners are killing people, they're hurting other people, they're killing themselves, and they just made up all sorts of ridiculous lies, totally inconsistent with our teachings. In fact, Falun Dafa, all of our the teachings are available online for free for anybody to go find out and read about. There's nothing secretive about it. And the people who practice, by the way, these days it's already been the Falun Gong teachings have been translated in 50 languages and practiced in 100 countries, roughly 100 countries around the world. And so there's no secret in terms of what we believe in, and how it's so evident that people, whatever community that they're in, they're trying to play a positive role and contribute positively to their community. But the CCP, the Chinese regime, they have all these resources to. These days, we're talking about transnational repression. They're placing ads all over the place. They're trying to spread disinformation on social media. They try to pay money for influencers on YouTube and whatnot to create bad, negative content against us. And some of them have, and they don't even know us. They're just getting one-sided information. Anyway, what I'm saying is, the Chinese government has resorted to everything possible to target us. So, and in China,
that tells you they're terrified of you. They're terrified they're losing their grip. And I have to say, I've been writing notes while you're talking, and I don't want to get in your way because the story is fascinating, but I have noticed since I could read practically, that the people who are doing the accusing are almost always the ones doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But so my brother was very fortunate that he and his wife made it out of China. My parents also were, able to join me. I was already a naturalized citizen, so I applied for them to come join me. So we're very fortunate, but there are millions and tens of millions of families' life are just completely turned upside down because of this persecution. But you don't hear it in the West. You definitely don't hear it in China. The only thing you hear is the state media saying all sorts of terrible things about us. So it was under this situation that Shen Yun, the performing arts company that have become very popular these days, was created. It was really under this dire and urgent situation, because the other part of Shen Yun's mission is really to revive our authentic traditional Chinese culture. And this goes back to how I was talking about the communist regime has been trying to root out traditional culture, but we have a beautiful culture, and all these for people who have gone to the Shen Yun show, you have seen, nothing but beautiful, not just visually, but all the messages are wholesome messages. People are uplifting stories, right? And it's this heritage that we refuse to be crushed, and we feel that we are the people who founded Shen Yun. We wanted really to revive it and share it with the world, the beauty of this culture, and not untainted by communist propaganda. Because in China, even if you go, you may still see some monasteries, and some of them are rebuilt just for tourist reasons. And you may see some Buddhism, but that's just a facade. Again, they have to be under the control of the communist regime. Anything that's outside of the communist regime's recognition is branded heresy or, cults and things like that. So we wanted to really preserve this culture that we're so proud of. So in 2006, it was in New York that a group of Falun Gong practitioners who were also artists, dancers, musicians, and choreographers, and got together and founded this company. So mostly we are first immigrants, but we just and again, we appreciate America for giving this opportunity to do it, because we definitely cannot do it in China. And America has always been a place where, it offers the freedom and for the arts, you don't have to go through the censorship in China. So it has been just given this great opportunity. And I think through a lot of hard work and dedication, and that we've gone through this journey. And in the beginning, we literally had absolutely nothing, other than the shirt on our backs. And we just, did everything, relied a lot on personal heroics, just try to do everything possible. We all multitasking and wore a lot of hats, and just did help with whatever it was I could help with. And the practitioners, the community of Falun Gong practitioners have also just all been amazing in supporting this. And we're talking about not just people in the practitioners in the U.S., but from other countries as well. They've been supporting Shen Yun, and some parents send their children, teenage children, and some of the teenagers, they practice Falun Gong already themselves, and everybody really just had our heart together to fight this, to fight this against the communist regime, and also to create this new performing arts company in this new land, with the aim of preserving our culture, exposing the persecution, but also offer hope, and inspiration to people. We never seek to convert anybody, but we want our program to, we want our audience to leave our performances feel uplifted, feel more positive, feel, I guess more connected with. In our tradition, the family values are really important. So we believe that if our audience can leave with those positive thoughts and ideas, and even if they want to be a better Christian, a better father, a better son, we think that we've done something positive and contributed to the world that way. So that is the mission of Shen Yun, and I think the CCP's attempts all these years, I don't know if you have heard, all these years, of course, they have been targeting us. They have pressured local theaters and government officials to cancel us. We have letters and emails that to prove that, because some of them share those with us. And they have even slashed our tires there were some coordinated attacks to slash the tires of our performers' buses or our the trucks that carry our costumes, and they've resorted to all sorts of things, and they've also sent threats to our headquarters of bombing, of mass shooting, of raping our female performers and killing them, and it's just horrendous. But all these years we've withstood all of those pressure, and I think those kind of threats only strengthened our resolve to do this, and do this in an excellent to impactful way. So I would say we have aimed to achieve artistic excellence based on spiritual development. So it's our spiritual faith has, inspired us and given us strength to achieve greatness. And artistically, the dance teachers and the dance students and our the other professional dancers, everybody has just worked so hard to achieve we set a higher and higher bar for ourselves. And today, many people say that Shen Yun sets the bar for classical Chinese dance. Classical Chinese dance is an art form that, just like ballet, is a comprehensive art form. If you've seen the Shen Yun performance, you see it's very athletic, right? With all the tumblings and twirls and flips and jumps but also at the same time it's very elegant and expressive and very lyrical. So all of those exciting elements of performing arts, I think people never really saw before. Before Shen Yun, introduced it to the West, and also actually every year there are people traveling from mainland China outside to overseas in order to see it in Taiwan, in Japan, and sometimes in the US. They would, if they have the means, they would travel outside of China to see it, because Shen Yun is not allowed to perform in China, not even in Hong Kong. But in Taiwan, we have performed there every single year and have been received just in a very overwhelming manner. We perform there for at least a month, I think, every year in Taiwan, going through from one city to the next. And today we have grown from 1 to 8 troupes that are performing around 800 shows every year and reaching 1 million people, and on all 5 continents. And also we have a new program every year, which is also very rare in the performing arts world. Every year we have a new program of new choreography, new music, new costumes, new stories. And so we have just been really thrilled of the reception that we've seen over the years. And so it's really it's wonderful that we have grown so much, but at the same time, I think the communist regime has also escalated their campaign to attack us. But we know that what we're doing is right, and we will not let them stop us.
And I wanted to ask you, you've been with Shen Yun since the very beginning. And I think you've explained it, but just to kind of encapsulate it again, what was it about this vision, this mission, that made you commit basically your life to it?
Well, first of all, I think it was because of the persecution that was happening. And again, it's not just my family. I know so many people personally, and also stories that I'm not, people who I don't know, but I know it's true, that have been going through this. There are orphans whose parents have been killed, that were trying. At one point, we had a project to try to rescue those orphans out of China. So it was all these things that just I couldn't just look the other way and continue with my normal life. I just felt really compelled to do something about it. And not just me, my parents, my brother, many people that I know who practice Falun Gong or supporters of Falun Gong who are outside of China. Because people in China, they have no voice, so we have to give them this voice. And so we've been trying to, before Shen Yun was even started, we try to reach out to our local representatives, our congressmen. So I think today a lot of our representatives in the government know us and know what's actually happening. And in fact, Shen Yun and Falun Gong have received hundreds, if not thousands, of proclamations from government officials or foreign dignitaries showing their support, their recognition of our contribution to the community here outside of China, and also condemning the persecution in China. I think a few months ago there was a Falun Gong Protection Act that was passed in the Congress, condemning, part of it is condemning the organ harvesting atrocities that's happening in China. I don't know if you heard of
read
that.
about that. Yes, I did. Yeah. And I have to admit, I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. But it's unbelievable the extent people the Chinese Communist regime would go to silence their enemies. But this whole organ harvesting thing, I think, in fact, the last couple of days, you may have heard from the news of the hot mic situation.
Yes, I did. And again, I wasn't shocked. I don't know why people think Putin's a good guy. He's not.
Yeah. It's that's another totalitarian regime.
I know. Maybe they ought to get married and have babies. I don't know. They're awful people. But I'm being flippant now. But I wanted to ask you before we go too much, further. Your brother, how is he?
He's doing well. Thank you so much for asking. As I said, he managed to leave China and come here and reunite with us. He has a son, and his son is actually attending the Feitian Academy of the Arts, and he's majored in horn performance. He's a pretty good hornist, I'm proud to say. So he is. My brother has continued to raise awareness of the persecution of China, as all of us have, and we have a lot of practitioners who have formed different projects and organizations and companies to help, amplify these voices. That's why we have been on the throne of the Chinese regime for all these years. I think the escalation of their campaign to smear us is a reflection of the fact that we have been a potent voice outside of China to expose their evil deeds.
And I have to ask you this. I mean, when you first started Shen Yun, and I know many of the reasons why you did it, but did you foresee it becoming this big and this important and such a huge voice against how communist China is treating their people?
Yeah, I was optimistic, and we just want to do everything we could. But I have to say, I didn't foresee that we can grow to 8 companies so strong. I was confident in that. We know that we are on the side of the good and the justice, and we know what we are doing is the right cause for not just us, but all of the other faiths that have been persecuted in China as well. Christians, Uyghurs, Tibetan Buddhists, all of them. We have to give all of them a voice against this persecution. So this resolve really fueled our determination for all these years, and then artistically, we also, in terms of music, I haven't mentioned that. I think for people who have seen the Shen Yun performance, you know that the Shen Yun orchestra is really unique. We have a special blend of classical Chinese, traditional Chinese instruments and classical Western instruments. You still see the the typical orchestra where you have the strings, the woodwinds, the brass. But on top of that, we also have incorporated some Chinese instruments like the soul stirring erhu and the pipa and some Chinese percussive instruments. And so as a result, the people are always very moved by our music, and I've heard so many audience members coming to us and say, "Oh, this, the sound that you create is so amazing," and it really touches the heart, because all of our music, the Shen Yun music, are original compositions by our own composers, and so they are composed specifically for the dance on stage. So every moment is in sync with the dance and help to support the dance and depict the atmosphere of the story on stage. And in the orchestra, I think our musicians, because we are all not just doing this as a job, but as a cause, right? So when we play the music, we're not just playing the notes. We put our heart into it. We literally put our heart and soul into everything we do. So when we play the music, we think we infuse in it our own energy and our own heart to make it really speak to people and reach out to communicate and reach out to people's heart that way. So our music, we also have a symphony orchestra. Some of our listeners may have been to one of our concerts because we perform at the Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, Boston Symphony Hall, Chicago Symphony Hall. So we also have a symphony program that with over 90 musicians. Again, it's a full-size symphony orchestra incorporating some Chinese instruments. So our performances, our sound is really unique. Many conductors actually and other seasoned musicians also have come to tell us how excited they are to hear the sound and the expressive capabilities we have added to a traditional symphony orchestra. We also perform some classical works, by Tchaikovsky, Brahms, and Beethoven, because we celebrate all classical traditions, and we think it's good for humanity to keep, preserving and to have space to let these classical arts continue to thrive.
And I love to hear that Tchaikovsky has always been one of my favorites. But of course, Shen Yun is known worldwide for its breathtaking dance and costumes. Can you take us behind the scenes into the artistry and the dedication that make those elements so extraordinary? The costumes are fascinating.
I know. Everybody talks about the costumes because in our performance, we usually have about 16 dance pieces. And for each dance, you are talking about a whole new set of costumes. So we have, if you go to a ballet or opera, right, they usually just have a few sets of costumes. But for a Shen Yun show, I remember in the beginning, some people say it's like a fashion show. And it's so, every time the curtain opens, you look forward to, wow, what am I going to see next? What's going to be the costume? And the costumes are very colorful, and they're all handmade and designed reflective of the different dynasties and also ethnic traditions in the vast land of China, right? And they are also made so that they're very flowy and enable the dancers to perform those athletic moves on stage. So they're very, and also we use very brilliant colors in our costume because we believe, it's part of the positive messages that we convey, and we believe life is, colorful, and sometimes our performances take people to the heavens, right? And sometimes take them under the seas, and just take them on a journey to different time periods or different, heavenly realm or different realms. That actually reminds me to mention our backdrop, which is which is dynamic, and it really interacts full in real time with our dancers on stage. And it takes people into all kinds of different places, anything you can imagine. So, into Monkey King's world, or, into some other classical literature of China. We have always featured stories like those and the heroes from those days and their faiths and their beliefs and how they honor their promises. Yeah, we try to incorporate a variety of stories that give people a really good sense of what are the beliefs that have made this civilization, this culture, thrive and continue for thousands of years. I believe the Chinese civilization is the longest running civilization, or among the longest.
I think you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
China has always been there, and I mean, I love to read. Seriously, I don't even like to sleep because it cuts into my reading time. But I have read about China since I was a very young girl, and I've always been fascinated with the culture until recently.
Yeah.
I would be fascinated with communism. But I wanted to talk about Shen Yun itself. Each year, and you've mentioned this, you create a brand new production, and now you've got 8 troops, you said. How in the world do you do this? I mean, I know you're very dedicated. You love what you're doing. You're bringing amazing work to the world. How do you do a new one each year? And this just popped into my head. Have you ever gone back and reworked one, maybe one of the very first ones, or are they new every single year?
They're new every single year. The program is new, and they're all different dances. I think occasionally we redo a couple of the ones, like the old classics in our world.
Right. That was my question.
That were very well received. And actually, we would improve it, and we may use the same music, but the music is maybe slightly reorchestrated to make it even more powerful. And the same with the dance. We may change some parts of it to improve it, to make it even more fascinating. But for the most part, all of the dances are new. And as of right now, we are in the process of creating the new program. So of course, all the stories are new, and there's some ethnic pieces where you may see that the costume is a little bit similar because they have to bear certain characteristics. For example, the Mongolian, right, or the Yi dance, and they have to bear the characteristic of the ethnic traditions. So they may look a little bit similar, but I would say for the most part, they're just all brand new. And the choreography also keeps changing because as we have new choreographers who join us, or we have some of our dancers become choreographers themselves, and they use their creativity as well to enrich the content of our performances.
Right, and you just brought up my next question, because the dancing is very athletic, as you mentioned, and very energetic. And I don't know, I'm guessing that these people can only do this for a couple or 3 years and then move somewhere else in the troupe. Or am I just guessing? I don't know. I was watching one the other day and my knees started hurting. I was sitting perfectly still, but I was massaging my knees in sympathy.
Yeah, because of the athletic nature of classical Chinese dance, which very often remind people of acrobatics or Olympic level gymnastics. So yes, the golden years of Chinese classical dance is in people's late teens and early 20s for the dancers. However, we still have many dancers who are around 30s, or maybe I think one of the dancers was over 40 years old, but they don't have to take the roles that have the most athletic elements, and they can still be part of the the performances. And in fact, they keep themselves in very, very good shape. And some of them have become instructors and teachers. So we have quite a bit of dancers who have just, matured into those roles.
And that makes sense. They don't just say, well, it's been nice, I'm going to leave now. They're still part of the family and part of the story and the history. They just find
and so, sorry to interrupt. Some of them have become instructors in schools outside of Shen Yun and Beitian. Yeah, they some of them are teachers in Taiwan, in San Francisco, in some other cities that have programs. Of, I think Toronto in classical Chinese dance, they have become instructors there.
Well, that makes sense. And, I'm watching some of these people because I love to go look at your videos, and I'm watching some of them going, that is incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I can't see anybody saying, well, I'm done now. I just can't see it. Yeah. The passion is there.
Yes. I'm very inspired by them actually, because every year, especially in the beginning years, I just see how they continue. They set the bar very high for themselves. So every year I'm seeing, drastic improvement. But they were never happy with what they already have accomplished. Always try to do even better. And I think that's kind of the spirit of Shen Yun is, I think it's related to our spiritual practice, actually, because our spiritual practice encourages us to be our very best, to do our very best.
Yeah, it sounds like a cult to me. Every time I think the word cult, I'm thinking, this isn't it. This just is not it. But Ying, I have to ask you, what does it mean to you personally to be part of bringing back a culture that was very nearly erased and deliberately erased?
Yeah, it means I really want to dedicate my life in preserving our culture and to untainted by communism. Because I think all Chinese people want that. We don't want people to think China equals the Chinese regime. It's totally different. The people is different. It's unfortunately under the control by the CCP today. However, they don't represent us. They don't represent what we believe in, how we are as a people. We feel very sad about the damage that they've done to the people in China, including depriving them of their right to practice their spirituality, to believe, and even unfortunately, the younger generation, they have very little exposure to that heritage. So that's why we think what we're doing today is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, when people walk out of the theater after seeing Shen Yun, what do you hope they carry with them?
I hope they appreciate classical arts, and I hope classical arts in general, and they appreciate seeing how China really is, not how China is under the communist regime, what the Chinese people really believe in, what the beautiful artistic presentation they're able to put together, and I want them to go away with a sense of hope and inspiration in that everyone can help make this world a better place. And I know it sounds corny, but we all have to work toward that.
No, it's not corny at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
What would you like to leave with our audience today? Something that they can carry with them after hearing this conversation and hopefully going to see one of your performances?
Sure, I hope that they come to see our performances, but whether they come or not, I just think it's up to every one of us to make a positive impact, to help shape the future for our children.
And I have to say, and I don't even know if I should be asking this question, but is there any hope at all that the CCP will go away?
I certainly hope so,
Me
because
too.
I think that its evil nature it's just becoming more and more apparent to everybody, now. In the past, I would say maybe before COVID, certainly, there were this period of time where it's like we know it's okay. Some people know about the evil nature of the CCP, but in order to do business and make money, they just turn the other way. And for all these years, they've been feeding this monster until it's now too big for, become such a big threat for the whole world. But thankfully, in the last few years, I think more and more people start to see the truth and the real nature of this regime. And I hope that it will not last long.
I hope the same. It's horrifying what they have done and who they are. I hate to let you go. I really hate it. This has been a fascinating conversation. And I want to thank you for sharing not just the beauty of Shen Yun, but the heart and the history behind it. And your story and the resilience of your family and your community is really a reminder that no matter what hardships we face, hope and culture can never really truly be silenced. So through your music and your leadership, you're helping audiences all over the world reconnect with something deeper, our shared humanity. And I thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you very much, Denise. It's really nice talking to you.
Oh, I love talking with you during the pre-interview. We could have published that and called it good. So it was so fat, except the part where I was crying a little bit. But thank you so much. And to our audience, if you have not yet experienced Shen Yun, I encourage you to do so. It's more than a performance. It's a window into 5,000 years of culture, faith, and artistry brought to life in a way that will stay with you long after the curtain falls. Learn more and find tickets at shenyun.com. Ying, again, thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Take care.
I will. You too.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.